Just beside that, Eddie, I know you're upset here, and rightfully so. I think the fans are upset over what's happened. I know even covering wrestling each and every week, when I found out what happened myself personally, I said, well, it doesn't make any sense because you hear something on a 900 number, then and also people in the wrestling media, guys like Wade Keller, Dave Meltzer on the West Coast, people who cover the sport and talk to people on the inside of it each and every week had no idea what was happening with this angle that they were building upon. So
it was a very well-kept secret.
It was a well-kept secret, is right,
sure.
yeah. So.
Well, it was a very well-kept secret, period. And what Jerry Lawler actually did was he's actually the one, if we be very honest about it, that actually got the whole story out. Because as this past week has gone by, and I've heard different conflicting reports and stories out of Memphis and different people that have talked to Jerry Lawler, is the way I really feel. I think that eventually he knew that he was going to be a beaten man by Lex Luger, any way you look at it, for a world title. And that he would not be, and I've heard these words that came out of there supposedly, that he said that he would not be the king of anything if he lost to Lex Luger. And now people maybe can start to understand the story a little bit. I also have heard supposedly that Jerry Jarrett may be waiting to see what happens with Jim Hurt's job come the first of the year. Mm-hmm. So all this then makes a lot more sense to me, and all of a sudden Jerry Lawler finding a reason to back out of the situation by want to put it on somebody else's shoulders. Jerry Lawler and Jerry Jarrett do not like Paul E. dangerously at all. If Jerry Jarrett and Jerry Lawler decided that's who they wanted to take the rap, or if it was someone in the WCW office that decided they wanted Paul E. to take the rap, it was wrong. It's very personal. It's not business, and I cannot stress that enough. It's the inner politics of the business. You don't ever hear, and you won't ever hear, of anything like this happening in the WWF with Vince McMahon, and I'm not kissing anybody's rear end here. I'm just stating a plain fact. If you read Wade Keller's Torch, if you read Dave Meltzer's Observer, if you read Steve Beverly's Matt Watch, and any other newsletter out there, when you read about the WWF, you don't ever hear or see or read anything about internal problems with any of their announcers, with any of their assistant bookers, anybody in their office, because it's run the right way. They're all worried about the direction of the company. They're not worried about cutting each other's throat. In the WCW office, everyone there is after each other's throats. On that steering committee right now, the reason why the committee won't work now, it hasn't worked in the past, is because that everyone on the committee wants to get ahead of each other. They're not worried about the direction of WCW, and they won't ever be worried about it. And that's what the whole problem with the situation is. It's personal. They want to cut somebody's throat. They want somebody to take the rap for it. They're not solving their own problems.
And it's a catch-22 situation, too. I agree with everything Eddie is saying, is that people would not try to get ahead of each other if the company was doing well and they respected the current leadership. The problem is that nobody respects Jim Hurt, and a lot of people do not respect Dusty Rhodes in the direction he's going. So, of course, everybody else in that company with any aspirations to become some sort of a promoter or booker or leader, everybody in that company thinks they can do a better job. And when that situation occurs, the company is not going to do well because it's going to be cutthroat. So it's a catch-22 situation. They have to be good before they can get good. And that's the problem with Jim Hurt's leadership. You need somebody besides Jim Hurt who can handle situations maturely and sensibly, and that just isn't occurring.
Yep. Well, Jack Petrick, who is the person running the place, the president of World Championship Wrestling, has been out of the country from what I understand, and he'll be returning tomorrow. Any gut feelings, Eddie or Wade, on how Mr. Petrick is going to handle this situation, or just sweep it under the carpet?
Well, I want to go on this deal real quick here, too.
Okay.
And I want everyone to really listen to this because I'm very, very serious about it. If you look at the whole situation from the beginning, the reason why Jack Petrick, of course, hired Jim Hurt, it wasn't any other reason but for being his close friend, someone he could trust to run a company for him. He had been a director of a wrestling show before. That was it. That was his only knowledge of the wrestling business. What I am going to call for, and I want everyone to please listen to this, because we need to do it now. We cannot wait any longer. Not only do we need somebody that the guys can respect, the wrestling people under them, we need a wrestling person. I don't care if it's Bill Watts. I don't care even if it's Jimmy Crockett, as long as it's a wrestling person running the company, because it's like no other company. It's like no other business. You can't make any decisions about the wrestling company unless you know wrestling. You cannot be swayed either way, because that has happened hundreds of times with Jim Herd. I mean, back in my times in the committee when I was in there, when we would make a decision, we'd all leave there. And I've said this before, but someone would always get around Jim Herd, and maybe they would take him out for a couple of drinks, and they'd give him about a half shot with whiskey or something like that, and then have him go back on the decision. Have him go back in and change it, because he didn't know the decision he was making. He does not know the wrestling business. To run that company, you need a person at the head of it that knows wrestling, that can make the decisions, like Wade was saying, where everybody can respect that person. I don't care who it is, as long as they're a wrestling person. So what I'm going to call for, and anybody out there writes their letters in to the Observer, to the Torch, and to Matt Watch, and like I said, to any of them, to any of the newsletters, in any way possible, is for Jack Petrick at the first of the year when Jim Herd's contract is up to very much think about whether he wants a friend running that company and watch it just go downhill, or hire a man like a Bill Watts or anyone else that'll run the company and get it out of the red and get it back into making money and run it so people will come to matches again and have respect for the business, and the boys can be proud of the job they're doing, and quit reading all these newsletters where the reports of the house shows are so bad and the ratings are bad and the TV shows are bad. And we need something done now. We can't wait any longer, because I've sat back on this thing. I've said we've all had to wait. We've got to go through all the old cronies, and I'll say that, all the old bookers. That's what they're looking at now. They're not looking at the new generation of the business that we're in. They don't respect the newsletters. They don't respect the young generation. They don't respect the new generation of wrestling minds in our business. We need it done now. We can't wait any longer. There's not going to be a WCW around.
Mm-hmm. Well, Eddie, you know, you speak your opinions, and those are the opinions of a lot of us who certainly cover this sport.
Even for its time period, John, I don't think I'd ever heard anything like that before, ever.
No, there's steam coming out of the across the country and around the world right now. I mean, people's audio streams are just blowing up because that was heat in a legitimate way. And you heard it. I mean, amazing stuff. And Eddie was over the top about what was going on, and what he said on the show made headlines.
I actually feel sorry for everybody involved. My 2 cents is just this: I wasn't there. I don't have a dog in the hunt, but it's all Jim Herd. You know, I'm sorry. It all boils down to who the boss was, and this all could have been prevented. It didn't need to go public the way it did. It was just ridiculous. None of this had anything to do with the quality of the presentation or the quality of anything. It had nothing to do with nothing but, like Eddie said, personalities.
Yeah, very true.